Hey guys, it's Thorin, also known as 944. Don't forget Thorin's YouTube channel.
Aleksib has joined NiP, and this has already piqued my interest. Even when I heard this move right before the RMR, I was like, ooh! Because I wondered what was going on with Aleksib. Why was he sort of in contract prison? Wasn't doing any interviews? This was an obvious move. To me, the actual team I thought was going to get him would be Fnatic. Because what I thought would happen before we knew that Alex basically didn't want to play anymore because of health issues, is that if you're G2, you just do a contract swap. We'll take Alex, who Nico used to want when he was back in FaZe in 2019, and he's more of a loose style IGL, but who calls mid-round. Then you'll take Aleksib, you want structure, you want the guy who's going to build out your squad, and you're buying cheap anyway since you're Fnatic. Then you bring in all these players. By the way, imagine the Fnatic team with Aleksib IGL in, and Messi was his support. Ooh, that'd be an interesting squad. But no, somehow it's NiP that comes out of it. This is their sort of pivot since they were selling Device. And quite frankly, I think it's a great pivot. Now, the team already qualified for the major with a nice 3-0 on the RMR. I think they're a dark horse to make a top 8 run. And in fact, I picked them in my pick'em to go exactly to the top 8. And now that Device has been sold to Astralis, that means we kind of know for the moment Rez is going to be the AWPer, and we know what the lineup is. And it isn't going to be a top elite team necessarily, but it's really a team that can get in the mix pretty quickly, if not immediately, for my money. So was it the right move to kick Plopsky out of NiP? Yes, I think it was the obvious move to make. They probably should have done it a while ago. He only ever really looked good for me when he was more in fragging roles and given resources, but I don't think he was quite good enough and didn't really develop like they thought he would in the same way as an AWPer. Nork hadn't quite developed like everyone thought he would, and he kind of got stuck at a level and couldn't really break through that ceiling. So as a result, when they kept putting him as a supportive player in shitty roles, then he was just whatever, wasn't he? And he wasn't exceptional, but he was all right, I guess. And so the problem is you had a bunch of all right players, but it's well, we're going to get to the top with these guys. And obviously, you didn't have an IGL. You not only didn't have an AWPer because of the Device situation and having to use 4Z and stuff like that, but you also didn't have a proper IGL. And then you don't have a superstar player because they didn't have Brolan at the time, or then they got Brolan and then they had this whack lineup. The whole team was a mess at that point in time. So suddenly, you bring in Aleksib, a lot of pieces get moved around. I think, quite frankly, Esatag already classically is a supportive element and entry player. He's already the player that you want to take some of those roles as they are. So getting Aleksib, I think, is a great pickup. This is a classic buy low, sell high move, regardless of what they paid for him, because no one else seemed to want him, but I think he can be a top 5 IGL in the game. He is a guy who has very strong qualities in an IGL. It's just, here's the problem. What he doesn't have amazing qualities for is just pure leadership, being a leader of men. Now, I don't mean for everyone, but I mean, if you look at some of the sort of more chill names he sometimes had in OG, sometimes he had an issue corralling those guys, then you consider if he has a Nico. I mean, Animosity, just in terms of Animosity, he's a very skilled player, and I would imagine, outside of being shy in English interviews, probably quite cocky in the server, I would imagine, and thinks quite highly of himself, just a guess. So you put him with Swedes, or in a Dane who's worked in tactical systems, with tactical coaches, and with generally good players but lesser names. I think this is a perfect scenario for this guy. This is a better version of what OG was that could actually now potentially do something. Because I think, like football or sports, managers and coaches, I think there are two general types. There are the small club guys who work with the smaller players and they get the most out of everyone and get a system going. And then there are the guys whose strength is man management. You get the big star players, the Real Madrids of the world, the Man Cities of the world, and you work with those guys and you find a way to win and get the best out of the superstar player without him ruining the whole structure. For me, Aleksib is much more the former. He works with a bunch of nothing, a bit of string and an old fucking leaf, and suddenly he turns it into a fucking sandcastle with a moat and a drawbridge and little fucking toy knights going up to it, and you're how did he make that? But meanwhile, you give him some super expensive toy that's really complicated and has a moving set of instructions, and you have to, then maybe that's not for him, maybe that's not his style, and he wants to approach it one way and they have to conform to him. So to me, I think that crucially, the talents he does have are good, and some of them could be top players. But the best thing is, they are the quieter ones, the younger ones, the less egotistical ones, the ones from the backgrounds where it's not going to be as spicy. So it is like Sergey when he was in ENT, who was the star player. It's like Brolan, who's the big fragger, the star talent in this NiP squad. And now I will say, as I alluded to, with the trickier big personalities, with the big star names of the past, the Alus of the world, the Nikos of the world, yeah, I think that's going to be harder. Because what people won't realise is this, mate, if a Carrigan can barely corral a Nico for more than a while, how's it going to work for an Aleksib? And again, a Carrigan can corral an Alu and make him seem like just a great role player. But if an Alu goes down a level and knows he's going down a level and he's overqualified, and then the Aleksib guy's doing a good job with the others in the team, but hey, you know what, I'm Alu, then yeah, you're going to have some more problems. I think you're going to have the obvious friction. There's a reason why they didn't play together that long overall. So G2's issues, look, they obviously have had them. Like, even when Aleksib was there was clearly something weird going on with Ekstaz, the coach, where, I mean, he's sort of implying he didn't get the full control or didn't agree with some aspects of it. So I don't think it was just him and Aleksib didn't see eye to eye. I think there was something very bizarre going on there. And that's something I will look into in the next year. I'm going to try and dig into some of my sources and see what maybe was going on behind the scenes. 'Cause I've heard a few things, and they were a bit disturbing along the old classic narratives. Also, remember, they did not have JKS when Aleksib was there. They had Jax instead, who could be a skilled player, but he wasn't a consistently skilled player. He could do his job, but he wasn't like a good player or a top player. He was a really complicated player in that sense. And quite frankly, he was a relic of the time they were a French team. So now I look back, I actually almost feel like they did make the wrong choice. Maybe it should have been Amanek that stayed. Maybe that was the right move to do. They had rookie Monacy, who barely played any lands outside of the academy system. And as a result, was still good, but he wasn't the player he was now with Huxley and with some time. And then you had Nico coming off, I would say, the time period where you had to hard carry last year and be like the second or third best player in the world for him to have a chance and still not win tournaments. Nico typically likes a looser style, especially if his game's coming off the boil a little bit and he's having some issues. He's going to want the freedom to figure it out himself. He's a superstar player. I understand that. The issue I have is I just wish he could somehow find a way to communicate, build a relationship with these IGLs and communicate to them what he needs. Because listen, they might be micromanaging other people. They might want to have a system elsewhere. They might want to play the maps they want, but they also want Nico to be a massive fragger. And so it's like what Shocks did with Existence back in the day. You just make the convo happen. You just understand that, look, I need you, you need me. Let's fucking go win a major together, dude. We both came second at them. That's bullshit. Why don't we just figure out a way to make this work? It might not be perfect for me, might not be perfect for you, but we can make it really good. Then let's keep the others in a system that works for them. That's what you sell, by the way, to an Nico. You do what Phil Jackson did with Michael Jordan. You tell him, look, the system's for the others, so they know how to play and how to play with you and how to play best with you. And then what I need you to do is just don't dominate the system. What you do is, for a bunch of the game, let me get the system set up, running, get the picks out and going, and then when you need to, you take over the game when it's the right time. You take over when you see an opportunity. When you're getting your game going hot, yeah, you keep pushing the pedal. But know that every now and then, sometimes I have to take the reins back a little bit. That's what you try and sell. I don't think Aleksib has the personality for that. I mean, even his background as a Swede, they're just not really that sort of person. I mean, you'd have to probably get pissed drunk on vodka in the scenario in a sauna to even bring it up. And like, look, Nico might want to get pissed drunk on vodka in a sauna, but I don't think with a Finnish male Counter-Strike player, I'd imagine, you know, maybe some of the ladies. Don't blame him. Now, as you can see, they clearly didn't want to change players in G2 when Aleksib came in and Monacy. Remember, there was that mad comment at the end of last year where even though that team had, like, the best they'd gotten was get to the major final, and even though they didn't win, they were making those comments from Hunter like, we won't be making player changes. And I knew behind the scenes they already were. In fact, who they were even going to get. So I was like, what is this nonsense? And I just heard, oh, it's that they don't want to make changes. So by the way, when Hunter speaks publicly, I mean, look, it is his bloody cousin. Nico's not going to say that stuff publicly, not least because, yes, everyone jumps down his fucking throat. So if you hear it from Hunter, just imagine that's a sentiment Nico probably shares. Except Hunter's also just a bit more of a chill guy. But that's also why he's not as great a player as Nico, in my opinion, even though he's a very skilled player. So to me, they didn't want to change players in G2. They begrudgingly did this because Carlos is a G and knows how to convince people. And he was going for all the marbles. Bring in Aleksib, underrated IGL. Bring in Monacy, could one day be the next Simple in a year or two, obviously. And then maybe things go great. You pop off, Nico's amazing, top 3 player in the world again. So we're right there, right? We're winning tournaments. And obviously in Katowice, it looked like we're in the final. Except there's all the nonsense going on between Russia and Ukraine. We all know that. So to me, they obviously wanted to potentially also go the route that they're going to, it's implied, go now. Maybe Hunter becomes the IGL because obviously Nico could accept his cousin being the IGL, couldn't he? That just feels like they're going to make that happen one way or another. And I'm sorry, I do get that vibe of like, yeah, well, I guess I will do it your way then, boss. Do it half-assed. Oh, has it not worked? Yeah, your way didn't work. So let's do it my way now, the way I said originally. I do sort of get those sort of like sour grapes bad vibe from this move, I have to say. But even so, go and look at it. Aleksib actually had half decent results. He had better results, quite frankly, already than Huxley's had with him. And Huxley had that one run to the semi-finals that people overrated because of how long Pro League lasts and winning the group stage and beating FaZe. Spoiler, a bunch of people have beaten FaZe. The point is, did you do it with his elimination? No. So I only care if you do it in a big stage scenario, in a semi-final, quarter-final. That's when it means a lot to beat FaZe. So I think this roster makes a lot of sense for Aleksib and with Aleksib. Aleksib is a good IGL when he can call his style. I think he will be able to do that in this team. He has Broland to be a star and potentially develop even more and go back to the level he was in 2019 Fnatic. By the way, I think he can still be a truly great player in Swedish and Scandinavian Counter-Strike. He has Hampus, who showed us as an IGL, a bit like Blamef, he's a bit wonky, but I tell you what, he's a really unique and good lurker with good fragging, a very unique mind for the game, but that's clearly is effective. And you see his style consistently works on both T and on CT with CT pushes, aggression, flanks. And he gives you a whole extra dimension when you're an IGL because he can do that, put pressure on the map, and he can be your secondary caller. Now, he's also not the secondary caller that's going to overrule you, so I think this is even better. He's not going to do what maybe an Alu or an Eco might have done to an Aleksib. He's going to chill back and he's going to give suggestions, or he's going to make a call of what he individually is doing in the round or is going to do. That's where I could see the two mentally connecting, and it could work out. It could be like a StarCraft Archon in that particular analogy. I think Rez could be a banger rifler again. It's just, will there be space in the team if they get a better AWPer? As an AWPer, look, I think he'll be all right. He might even have games where he's good. He's got good first bullet. He's got good aim. He's clearly leveled up his skills again over the last few years. I just think it's a bit of a waste, obviously, but then again, if Hampus is really good, yeah, that's the problem. Eventually, what do? Kick Essetag and get the AWPer. That's the thing. I don't really know what we do in that particular sense. It's hard to find the roles sometimes, even though there's some very good players here. I do think Essetag's a solid player. He's always been a solid journeyman. He's not a great player. He's just a good player, and he's got a good mentality. He doesn't seem to have a big ego, fits into the team, does whatever you want, whatever role you want. Now, if you're in the wrong team and have the wrong IGL, they'll put you in the wrong role and they'll give you a stupid set of roles. If you have a good IGL like Aleksib, I think he'll figure out how to use Essetag and put him in the right places, and it'll shore up the strength of the riflers. And then you've got tactical coaches who like tactical Counter-Strike, who want that style of play, which Hampus clearly could not execute very well. That's why they had non-existent T-sides, despite having a genius-like threat behind them. I think they will enable and activate the Aleksib style, and you will see him maybe being the best team he's ever been in. That's big words, because hence 2019 was pretty good, but they didn't have the firepower this team does, even though they don't really have the AWPer yet. Now the map pool, admittedly, they did play one of their lands as a Swedish land that no one cares about. They're basically only playing Vertigo, if you haven't seen it, which is a massive detail, because obviously NiP historically was playing it since the old line at Winnock. But crucially to me, Aleksib never ever played ever in NSOR OG. And he's played it now 16 times, taking out the 2 times at the Swedish LAN, 10 times in G2. They went 5-5, a lot of early wins, a lot of close losses. And now, played it 6 times already, while they're in this. I mean, obviously that means only a couple of them were outside of the Swedish. Actually, that's wrong. I assume that's all just from the Swedish line as well. I forgot about that detail, but whatever. They played it a lot as the point, and they're clearly flexing into it. Then what do they play? Inferno, Nuke, Mirage, Ancient. Well, the old team was pretty solid on Ancient. That's pretty nice to always have in your back pocket. And Inferno was their best map under Hampus, admittedly when they had Device as well. That's a map that you're going to need to play in the pool in general. And then Nuke and Mirage, they were the maps, when you have Train outside the pool, that ENCE was making their hay on. That's where they had all their success. So I actually think the map pool's looking good already. I'm very interested because they've got this black box environment of already playing an RMR 3-0ing and then playing a dog shit Swedish LAN. I don't think teams are going to have a lot of material to go off because they didn't have to play the Challenger stage. So they're coming out with a real chance to just shock people in this opening Legends stage and get top 8. Now, beyond that, yeah, it's going to be hard to win series against a lot of teams. It's going to be hard against teams with a really good AWPer. It's going to be hard with teams with a lot of months under their belt and chemistry and great communication and speak all one language. Yeah, there are clear difficulties that they're going to face. It's not as simple. And just because they can all speak English doesn't mean it's Team Liquid, although it's not like they're super amazing comms teams, but where everyone's just super comfortable in it. It might make some of Aleksib's comms a little bit trickier, but I think they can overcome it. Yes, they have problems. They have no true superstar yet because of Broland. They have a strong rifle core, but this question's an AWP. Okay, it's not like all the rest of the teams have the best AWPer, but a lot of them have dedicated AWPers. They have a good supportive base, but the riflers are going to have to do the fragging. Vertigo angle is a very good sign, but let's see them shore up the map pool as they play a bunch of series. Want to see more than one series. My expectations are they make top 8 at the major. I think this is the right team to activate the Aleksib style. I could see them being a top 5 team in 2 months, 3 months. I hope they will get a proper offer eventually and just go for the absolute, all the marbles. The problem obviously being, what do you do with the Reds in this attack scenario? We can figure that out when we come to it. I think the fact that they've broken being Swedish is the big issue people aren't seeing here. They look like, oh, but they just still got extra tag, and then, yeah, you got Aleksib, so they'll speak English for now. No, why ever go back to Swedish now? Unless you can get some amazing crop of Swedes who we haven't seen yet. Just make it an international team. And then next time a Dexter's available, you get him. Next time there's a player like Neo, you get him. Next time you see my point, the Sun Piuses of the world, they can come to your team. That would be fire, right? Imagine Aleksib, by the way, on OG now with this lineup. He would do work, my dude. He could probably be a dark horse to win the major or go to like the semis of the final or something instead of getting eliminated in the bloody challenger stage. So I think now it also opens the door that when this initially works as a core and they show something, then you have the choices in NiP, who, fair play, did buy device, did get in Brolan, did get an S attack. They've actually shown they're willing to spend and pay money. It was just they were waiting on device and see what was going on with him. I've talked about some of his issues there. I understand why they had to delay and hope that he would play for them again, and the whole marketing angle. So potentially, if they're willing to go for it, this could be a very good team in 6 months, in 9 months, depending on the moves they make. This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Hades GOUD, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Kovacevicd, Ord, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and as always, special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my upcoming content? Maybe you want to ask a question in my monthly AMA. Would you like teasers to find out who the guests are for upcoming interviews and shows? Maybe you want to take part in one of those lengthy esports discussions with me that can go all over the place. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today, where in the description box below, there's a Patreon link.